He climbed that fence with nothing left to lose, ready to step off the edge forever. Then the sky shattered, monsters poured out of every screen in the city, and dying suddenly became everyone else's problem too. A boy who wanted to disappear became the only one willing to fight. Kurigane Rakutoo has never had a reason to look forward to tomorrow. At school, he is invisible to most and a target to the rest. The same group corners him every single day, shoving, mocking, leaving marks that teachers choose not to see. No one steps in. No one ever does. Home offers no relief. His stepbrother Kaido is the worst of it. Not just cold, but deliberately, methodically cruel. In the dojo that once resembled a place of training, Kaido swung a bamboo sword at him not to teach anything, but to cause pain. The boy never screamed, which only made Kaido swing harder. By the time Rakutoo had unconsciously learned to read an attacker's movements and redirect force with minimal effort, he had already decided the skill wasn't worth using. What was the point of fighting back when there was nothing left worth protecting? His real parents are gone. The people who replaced them filled the house with noise, but no warmth. His stepfather creates pointless tasks that exist only to exhaust. The people at school, the ones who pretend not to watch while he gets beaten, treat kindness like a costume, something to slip off the moment it becomes inconvenient. So on one particular afternoon, when the school day ends and the hallways clear out, Rakutoo climbs to the rooftop. He moves without hurry. His phone, already smashed by one of the bullies earlier that day, sits dead in his pocket. There is a strange lightness in not having it working. He reaches the chain-link fence at the edge, grips the metal, and pulls himself upward. Below him, the city spreads out in every direction. He opens his arms slightly and tilts forward into the wind, and thinks for the first time in a long while that he is finally about to feel free. Then the sky tears open. Enormous columns of cascading light and fragmented data crash down from above like something ripping through the boundary between worlds. Every phone, screen, and device in the school starts sparking, convulsing, and cracking apart at the seams. Students below scream. The sounds that follow are not human. Something is forcing its way out through the broken screens, climbing through the light, pulling itself into shape, breathing. Rakutoo watches every second of it from the rooftop ledge. He does not move. A heavy scraping sound snaps him back. A green, hunched figure hauls itself over the edge of the roof, all muscle and rotting teeth and raw aggression, gripping a blood-drenched weapon. It finds Rakutoo with its eyes and does not stop to think. The goblin lunges with a downward slash aimed at splitting him clean open. He throws himself sideways. The blade clips the fence behind him and sprays sparks across the concrete. Rakutoo rolls upright and grabs the first thing he can reach, a rusted maintenance pipe left near a junction box. He turns and faces the creature with the pipe in both hands, arms shaking. The goblin charges again. He blocks. The impact travels from his wrists to his shoulders like a current of raw electricity. He shifts his footing, absorbs it, and blocks again. And again, his body begins pulling up information his mind had tried to bury. Years of forced training under Kaido's supervision. Hours of absorbing blows with nowhere to go, until one day the patterns stopped being painful and started becoming automatic. The timing, the weight transfer, the precise angle at which force can be turned back against the person sending it. The world goes completely still inside his head. He waits for the goblin's next overhead swing, lets it descend to within inches of him, then pivots and drives the pipe in one clean arc that sends the creature stumbling hard across the rooftop. It scrambles to recover. He does not allow it. He brings the pipe down with everything. Every bruise, every hollow night, every moment of being told his existence was a burden to the people around him. And the creature stops moving. Rakutoo stands over it, covered in blue-black fluid, pulling air in long, ragged breaths. He leans sideways and throws up. Then he straightens, looks at the burning city sprawling below, and lets out a sound that is not a word, just a raw, unfiltered release of something that has lived behind his ribs for years without an exit. A voice comes from the doorway behind him. That was you. You took that thing down by yourself. Nishi Shinya steps out onto the roof with a guitar case across his back, surprise written clearly across his face. He is the kind of person who makes everything around him look easier, confident, well-liked, the type the whole school has an opinion about. But right now he is not looking at Rakutoo the way everyone else does. He is looking at him like he is actually seeing something real. Head's bleeding, Nishi says, taking in the full picture. You fought that thing with a head wound and still came out standing. He pauses. Okay, that's not nothing. The two of them head back inside together. The upper floors are silent in the particular way that precedes something terrible. Nishi opens his guitar case. Inside is not an instrument, but a high-grade compound bow, the kind that belongs in a competition hall, not a destroyed school hallway. He draws and fires in a single, fluid motion, dropping a goblin before the creature even processes that it's been spotted. Rakutoo moves in and finishes it with the pipe before the body hits the floor. After the second and third engagement, they stop needing to talk through it. Rakutoo pulls aggression, draws strikes toward himself, and creates windows. Nishi eliminates from range with mechanical precision. When a heavier goblin tries to break Nishi's position, Rakutoo steps in front and takes the hit across the shoulder to keep his partner protected. Nishi watches this happen with an expression that starts as surprise and quietly becomes something harder to name. You fight like your own survival is someone else's concern, he says. Rakutoo doesn't answer. He doesn't disagree either. The upper floors turn out to be mostly cleared. The monsters that emerged here have already moved toward the city, pulled toward larger concentrations of people. But on the 6th floor, the sounds change. Something far heavier is moving in the rehearsal wing, slow and patient. On the rooftop, the surviving students have barricaded themselves behind stacked desks and overturned equipment. The PE teacher paces the perimeter, issuing commands no one is following. When Rakutoo and Nishi come through the access door, relief moves across most of the room. Kujo Sakura immediately steps forward to assess their injuries, pulling supplies from a kit she apparently carries as a matter of habit. The teacher has a plan. Stay put, ration the water, wait for rescue. He speaks with the measured authority of someone who has not yet looked out the window at what is happening below. Rakutoo walks to the edge of the roof, surveys the city, the fires, the running figures, the shapes moving between buildings that are far too large to be human, and turns back to the group. Rescue isn't coming, he says simply. If the monsters came out of the phones, then the whole world is dealing with this right now. Not just this city. The teacher opens his mouth. No one else does. The floor beneath them shudders. A slow, rhythmic impact begins somewhere below, the weight of something ascending the stairs that is nothing like a goblin and nothing like a person. Nishi knocks an arrow by reflex. The survivors press together. Then a scream tears across the rooftop from the stairwell exit across from them. It is 2 floors down. It has an edge in it that does not have much time remaining. Rakutoo is through the door before anyone can say a word. Nishi grabs his arm. That floor is where we heard the heavy one moving. I know, Rakutoo says. Nishi looks at him for exactly 1 second. Then he lifts his case. Then we go together. They go down. The 6th floor hallway is dark and carries a smell that does not belong in any school. Something animal and ancient, like a predator that has been resting undisturbed for a long time. Rakutoo and Nishi move quietly along the wall, listening. Then they hear it. A low, grinding drag, followed by a sound like something massive shifting its weight. They peer around the corner. An ogre fills the far end of the corridor. It stands nearly 3 meters tall, knuckles brushing the floor, a club the size of a tree trunk resting across one shoulder. At its feet, bound with rope to a broken pillar, is a girl, Tachibana Katon. She is alive, but barely conscious from shock. The creature has been dragging her like a trophy. Nishi goes completely still. Tell me you have a plan, he whispers. Rakutoo is already reaching into his jacket. He produces a medical syringe filled with clear liquid, pure laboratory-grade ethanol, that Sakura quietly pressed into his hand before they left the rooftop. He explains it in 12 words. Attach it to an arrow, aim for the eye, inject directly into the bloodstream. Nishi stares at him. And if the needle doesn't penetrate? The eye is the same sensitivity as ours. It will. The plan is simple and almost suicidal. Rakutoo acts as bait, keeps the creature occupied, takes every hit he has to in order to maneuver it into a straight line. Nishi gets 1 shot. When Rakutoo knocks on the pipe 3 times, that is the signal. What follows is one of the most brutal minutes of Rakutoo's life. He steps into the room, shouts, and the ogre turns. The first swing of the club misses him by a margin that shrinks with every exchange. He redirects the creature's weight the way his kendo training taught him. not matching force with force, but using the monster's own momentum against it. The club crashes into the floor instead of his skull. He strikes the ogre's foot, and it bellows in pain. He circles, draws it further into the hallway, creates the angle Nishi needs. But his arms are failing. The pipe is slipping in his grip. The ogre senses the weakness and launches itself forward with everything it has, sending Rakutoo airborne into the far wall. He crashes down hard and barely gets upright. The creature stands over him, raising the club for the final blow. Rakutoo looks down the hallway. Nishi is there, 60 meters away, arrow drawn, the ethanol syringe fastened to the shaft. The angle is terrible. The distance is awful. Rakutoo knocks the pipe against the floor. 1, 2, 3. The arrow screams down the corridor and buries itself directly into the ogre's eye. The creature does not fall immediately. It tears at the arrow in blinded agony while the ethanol floods its system. Rakutoo climbs onto its back and holds on through the thrashing. He just needs the chemical to finish the job. The ogre staggers, roars, and collapses, bringing both of them down. The impact shakes the hallway floor. When the dust settles, the ogre is motionless. Rakutoo lies flat on his back beside it, staring at the ceiling, completely drained. Nishi rushes in and cuts Katon free. She looks between him and Rakutoo and cannot fully process that she is alive. When she realizes who saved her, she throws her arms around Rakutoo without thinking. She remembers him from elementary school, calls him by a childhood nickname that he has not heard in years. He stares at her blankly. He genuinely does not remember her. The awkward moment is interrupted when Katon's boyfriend, Saito, charges in from the stairwell. He grabs Rakutoo by the shirt and starts screaming that he is manipulating Katon, that the rescue was a scheme, that he is not to be trusted. Rakutoo does not even blink. He removes Sato's hand from his collar, tells him to do whatever he wants, and walks back toward the rooftop. Saito is left furious on the floor, processing the fact that he lost an argument with someone who was not even paying attention. The survivors on the rooftop are running out of time. Food will last 3 days. No phones are working. Every device that had a creature come out of it has simply gone dark. The only exception is Rakutoo's phone, which was smashed before the synchronization and never served as a portal. Sakura, who has a chemist's eye for hardware, believes she can cannibalize Katon's identical model to rebuild his. But she needs specific tools from the electronics section of the AO department store nearby. The teacher refuses to authorize any expedition. He insists rescue will arrive. He will protect the group from the rooftop. He will manage the rations. Rakutoo is already at the door. Katon volunteers to drive. She has been handling her grandfather's manual transmission truck through countryside roads since she was a child. Saito loudly objects. Katon tells him to sit down. Nishi hands her the keys he found in the teacher's car and decides that is enough discussion. The group that leaves is small: Rakutoo, Nishi, Katon, Sakura, and Saito, who inserts himself uninvited and is pointedly not argued with. Along the way, Nishi spots a convenience store, and the group briefly stops for supplies. Inside, the shelves are mostly stripped, but a cardboard box near the back looks untouched, stacked with bread. Saito lunges for it before Rakutoo can stop him. The box opens a single enormous eye. A tentacled creature explodes out of the box and wraps around Sato's neck. Rakutoo drives his pipe into it immediately, freeing him. The creature is a mimic, pulled directly from the mechanics of an RPG dungeon. Nishi appears at the door, warning that things outside have become significantly worse. A patrol of lizardmen has surrounded the parking lot. The group charges out. Nishi drops one with a precise arrow shot to the throat. Rakutoo engages 2 others while Katon shields Sakura. The odds tilt badly when a third lizard man flanks the group and cuts off the retreat. Out of nowhere, a rock hits the creature dead in the face. Then another. Then 4 more in rapid succession. On the rooftop of the building across the street, 2 figures are operating. Taka, hurling rocks with baseball pitcher accuracy, and Ice Yamaoka, an older student with brass knuckles who drops into the fight directly. Together, they clear the last of the lizardmen in under a minute. The group reunites at the car, deeply grateful. The 2 newcomers are survivors from a nearby area who have been using a motel as a base. No cell phones on the premises, which means no portals. Taka explains the location with quiet urgency. Ice says he will help in whatever capacity the group needs. Back at the motel, Sakura gets to work immediately. She spreads components across the table, sketches diagrams in the margins of a notebook, and starts rebuilding Rakutoo's phone from the combined parts of both devices. Hours pass. No one talks much. Everyone watches the door. Then Sakura holds up the repaired phone, pulls up the mobile network, and starts scrolling. The feed is overwhelming. Thousands of posts from people across the region, most of them asking for help, most of them going unanswered. But buried in the noise is a post with actual coordinates. A verified shelter in Amishima City, with confirmed survivors and running water. The post is from 3 days ago and still active. Nishi exhales for the first time in what feels like hours. Rakutoo studies the map. The route is not clean, but it is passable with the right vehicle and the right approach. He lays out the plan in pieces. They leave at first light, travel the eastern bypass, avoid the main roads where the larger creatures have been gathering. The night is quiet enough for people to sleep. Saito disappears for a stretch of time that no one notices until he comes back wearing an expression that doesn't quite fit his face. Too calm, too still, like something wearing a familiar mask for the first time and getting the angles slightly wrong. He apologizes to Nishi for the earlier tension and says he just wants everyone to get out alive. Nishi thinks that sounds reasonable. Rakutoo says nothing. He watches Saito settle into the corner of the room, that faint, wrong smile sitting just barely out of place, and feels a cold and wordless certainty settle at the base of his spine. Something has come back with him from wherever he went. The morning the group is supposed to leave, the sky does it again. Digital columns punch through the clouds exactly as they did on the first day, cascading streams of code slamming into the city, warping everything they touch. Creatures materialize in the streets below the motel with no warning. This time there are no phones left to serve as portals. No one can explain the second wave. It simply arrives, and the world gets worse before anyone has time to prepare for it. Rakutoo looks out the window at the horde assembling in the road below, and then looks at Saito, who is standing very still in the corner of the room, wearing that same wrong expression from the night before. Saito speaks first. He says he has been waiting for this moment. He says everyone played their part perfectly by escorting Katan all the way here. His voice has the cadence of performance, like someone reading from a script they have memorized but do not fully understand. Then the shadow behind him rises. A massive skeletal figure unfolds from the darkness at Sato's back. Ancient, crowned with a pale glow, its eye sockets burning a deep, unnatural red. Nishi recognizes it immediately from the visual language of every RPG he has ever played. A lich, an undead commander, an elite-tier enemy that should not exist outside of a game screen. Somehow, when Saito slipped away the previous night and found a sealed coffin in a storage room he had no business entering, the creature inside made him an offer. He said yes. Saito raises his arm and data pillars begin dropping from the sky directly onto the motel's location. Within seconds, the rooftop is swarming. Goblins, harpies, lizardmen. Every low-tier creature the Lich can pull through the synchronization. The group scatters. Rakutoo and Nishi take the front line without needing to discuss it. Katan pulls Sakura back toward the stairwell access. Taka and Ice move to cover the flanks. Saito watches from beside his master, arms folded, wearing the satisfied expression of someone who expected to feel more powerful than he currently does. The fight is brutal and one-sided in the worst possible direction. Rakutoo clears a path through the smaller creatures with the pipe, but the Lich's command of the horde is relentless. Every gap he creates fills again within seconds. Nishi's arrows are landing, but the larger creatures are absorbing the hits. When a lizard man catches Rakutoo from the left while he is engaged with another from the right, the combined impact sends him hard into the concrete wall of the rooftop access structure. He slides down it and does not get up. Katan sees him go down and stops thinking about her own safety entirely. She pushes through the chaos to reach him, drops to her knees beside his crumpled form, and finds no response. His pulse is there but faint. The impact stopped his chest. She does not hesitate. She learned basic resuscitation techniques years ago with the specific goal of one day becoming a doctor. She begins compressions, counts under her breath, and refuses to acknowledge the creatures closing in around her, because right now there is only one thing in the world that matters. Rakutoo's eyes open, and the first thing he sees is her face 6 inches from his, absolutely furious. Don't you dare give up that easily, she says. Her voice is shaking, but her hands are not. He blinks, breathes. Something shifts in his expression, not the blank detachment that defines his usual face, but something closer to recognition. He hears his own name in her voice the way he heard it years ago, from a small girl on a sunlit playground who looked at him like he was worth protecting. He gets up. Across the rooftop, Sakura is already moving. She retrieves the metal pipe that fell near the wall when Rakutoo went down, carries it to the emergency maintenance cabinet, and starts working with a combination of chemicals from her personal kit. The result, when she finishes, is a pipe coated in a thin layer of silver, applied through a rapid chemical deposition reaction. In game logic, skeletons and undead are vulnerable to silver. She is genuinely uncertain whether that rule applies to actual monsters that have crawled out of actual darkness. But Rakutoo, when she hands it to him, says without hesitation, "You got it right." He charges. The lich turns its empty sockets toward him with something that might be contempt. It sends every remaining creature in the horde at the approaching figure. Nishi, Ice, and Taka absorb the flood, clearing paths, intercepting attacks, keeping the line open through sheer exhaustion and stubbornness. Rakutoo reaches the lich. The creature's tail sweeps low. He jumps it cleanly. An arm comes down. He slides under the angle. He has studied every movement pattern across 30 seconds of engagement, and the creature does not have enough variation to surprise him now. He drives the silver-coated pipe into the base of its neck. The lich does not burn or explode. It simply dissolves, quietly, like smoke pulling away from the source of a fire. The red light in its eyes goes out. The horde loses cohesion instantly, creatures scattering in every direction without the directing intelligence. Saito stands alone in the sudden silence. The shadow that gave him his borrowed power is gone. He is just a frightened, furious teenager standing on a rooftop in a burning city, and what remains of his expression is something between rage and grief. He disappears over the edge of the roof before anyone can reach him. Katon calls his name once. Then she stops. The group leaves before the next wave can find them. The road to Amishima is worse than anyone prepared for. Three-eyed wolves hunt in coordinated packs along the eastern bypass. A titan the size of a building stands at one intersection, too large for the van to engage. Nishi spots a dragon perched on a highway overpass and tells Katon to take the alternate route without slowing down. They are somewhere in the outer districts, windows down and everyone scanning, when a motorcycle cuts across their path from a side street. The rider is a girl, silver-white hair, a knife at her hip, and a crossbow slung across her back. She does not stop. She fires a flare into the sky behind her and keeps moving. Three wyverns that were tracking the van immediately pivot toward the light source and follow her instead. Nishi watches this happen with his mouth open. The reprieve lasts long enough for Katon to push the van to the next overpass. But the engine, which has been running hard since the motel, finally gives out in the middle of an exposed stretch of road, pouring white smoke from under the hood. The van coasts to a stop. Ahead, in the sky, the silhouettes of at least a dozen dragons are circling. The group exits at a run. A red wyvern drops from the formation and dives toward them, faster than the others, larger, its eyes fixed on the group with hunting intelligence rather than animal instinct. Nishi fires and the arrow connects, but does not slow the creature meaningfully. Taka jams a piece of broken concrete into its jaw as it swoops low. Ice lands a brass knuckle straight into its snout that makes it reel sideways. But behind it comes another, and behind that one for more. Then a flare gun fires from somewhere above. The burst of white light expands across the sky, and the wyverns spiral away from it in disoriented loops, screeching. In the sudden chaos, the same silver-haired girl from the motorcycle appears at street level, kicking open a subway access door and ordering everyone inside with the impatient authority of someone who has already saved people who did not deserve it and is prepared to do it again, barely. She tells them they attracted every creature in the district with the engine noise. She tells them her entire route plan is ruined. She tells them to keep up and try not to die for the next 8 minutes. Rakutoo thanks her. She clicks her tongue and walks faster. Her name, they learn in the tunnel, is Ginkgo. She does not offer it voluntarily. She leads them through the dark subway corridors, lit only by small lanterns placed at intervals, until the passage opens into something no one expected, an underground settlement. Tents. Cooking fires. Dozens of survivors organized around a central platform with functional water access and rationed food stores. At the edge of the platform, a man in his 30s with red hair and an easy smile steps forward to greet them. He introduces himself as Hizaki, the settlement's leader. He says this place is the last pocket of real order left in the region. He says everyone here helps each other. He says they are welcome to stay. Rakutoo looks at the smiling man. Then he looks at the faces of the people behind him, who are not smiling at all. He accepts the offer and says nothing else. The settlement beneath the city looks like survival. It functions like something else entirely. Rakutoo notices the pattern within the first day. The hunters, the ones who go to the surface and risk their lives gathering resources, receive bonuses in the form of extra food and better sleeping quarters. The diggers receive half that. The cooks receive less. And at the very bottom of Hizaki's invisible hierarchy sit the people who are too old, too injured, or too frightened to be useful in any capacity the red-haired leader has defined as worth rewarding. The atmosphere is not one of people helping each other. It is one of people calculating how not to end up at the bottom. Nishi pulls Rakutoo aside and says something is deeply wrong here. Rakutoo agrees. The question is what Hizaki is actually building, and what happens to the people who stop being useful. The answer arrives from an unexpected direction. Ginko finds Rakutoo on the platform one evening and tells him she knows the truth about how the apocalypse started. Not speculation, not a rumor. She knows because her mother was directly involved. Her name is Ginko. Her mother was Yukaina, a game developer employed by a company called FN Corporation. Yukaina spent years building a tactical survival game called Sylvia, one with no magic systems or level progression, just strategy and everyday items used in unconventional ways. Every monster in the current apocalypse, the goblins, the harpies, the golems, the giant scorpions, came directly from that game's design documents. 1 week before the end of the world, a man named Kurigane Rakutoo visited Yukaina in her hospital room. He praised her work with the specific warmth of someone who already had plans for it and didn't need her permission. Rakutoo goes very still when he hears the name. Ginko continues. Rakutoo left with copies of her mother's files. When the apocalypse arrived and Yukaina realized her creatures had been pulled into the real world through FN Corporation's mythic summoning system, she stayed at her computer trying to finish something, a counter to what had been started, even as monsters tore through the hospital around her. A giant scorpion found the room before she could complete it. Ginko arrived just in time to watch her mother take the killing blow that was meant for her. With her last breath, Yukaina pressed a pendant into her daughter's hand, an SD card hidden inside it. The truth about everything, she said. Enough to stop it. Get to Amishima City and find a man named Shiosaki Genya. He was there at the beginning. He will understand what to do with what is on that card. The group sits in silence for a long moment after Ginko finishes. Nishi asks if she is certain about Rakutoo. Rakutoo tells them all quietly that Rakutoo is his cousin. The admission lands like a stone dropped into still water. Katon reaches toward him instinctively. He does not pull away. The mission is now clear. They need to reach Amishima, find Shiosaki, and use what Yukaina left behind to end what Rakutoo started. The next morning, the ground moves. Not an earthquake, something alive beneath the floor. The worms that have been living deep in the tunnel's substrate have grown. They crack through the foundation in multiple locations simultaneously, bursting upward through the platform and the sleeping quarters, and the screaming starts before anyone is fully awake. Hizaki's response is immediate and precise. Abandon the south sector. Prioritize the hunters, the cooks, the people who produce value. Leave the injured and elderly in place. When Rakutoo hears this, he is already running toward the south sector. He finds Sana and her father pinned against a collapsing wall, the old man too injured to move quickly. He clears the worm with the pipe and tells them both to run. Sana's father asks why he came. He knows he is dead weight. He says he knows the rational thing was to leave him. Rakutoo looks at him and says that rational calculus is for animals. They are still human. The moment costs him. The floor gives way while he is helping them, and he drops into the level below, taking Ginko with him. They land in a worm-egg chamber, walls lined with pale, glistening clusters, and have to pick their way through it carefully, every step measured. Above them, Hizaki's enforcer watches them fall and makes no move to help. He reports it as an accident, with a smile. By the time Rakutoo and Ginkgo claw their way back up through an access duct, the settlement is fracturing. The worms have spread. The truce that held Hizaki's community together under threat is dissolving now that the threat has found them inside. And Hizaki, seeing that his two most inconvenient variables have survived, adjusts his plan. He has Katon and Sakura moved to guarded quarters under the pretense of keeping them safe. When two of his veterans break into those quarters to act on their own agendas, Hizaki personally executes them both, one shot each, without hesitation, then apologizes to the girls with the detached courtesy of a man pruning a garden. He frames it as protection. He offers the girls to his senior hunters as a reward for loyalty instead. The mask has completely slipped now. Rakutoo arrives and shuts the whole arrangement down with 3 words and a pipe. Hizaki steps back, tilts his head, and gives the warmest smile he has produced yet. He says Rakutoo is young and idealistic and does not understand what it takes to keep people alive. He explains that the worm in the deep tunnel, the giant one, the one that could swallow a train car, has been held back only because his system has kept the station operational. He explains that without him, everyone dies. Then he orders his men to throw Rakutoo into the tunnel as the creature's next feeding. What happens next is not what Hizaki planned. Sana's father, the old man who accepted being called dead weight, who watched himself nearly get abandoned underground, picks up a loose club and brings it down across the back of Hizaki's top enforcer with everything he has left. The crack echoes through the platform. He keeps his feet and shouts at the people around him that their life as invisible livestock is finished. The survivors who have been silent for weeks find out they have been waiting for exactly one person to move first. The riot does not last long. Hizaki's veterans are better fighters individually, but there are far more people who have spent months swallowing humiliation, and they are not swallowing it anymore. The veterans retreat. Several fall into the holes the worms have opened. Hizaki himself slips away during the chaos, making for the train controls. The master key is still in his pocket, and the train is the only way out. Rakutoo follows him alone. What follows is one-on-one, in a crumbling corridor with worm tunnels opening in the walls around them. Hizaki fires 3 times with his pistol. Rakutoo reads each shot from the reflection in the gun barrel and moves accordingly. On the 3rd shot, the one aimed with genuine intention to kill, Rakutoo uses a chunk of broken concrete to absorb the round, closes the remaining distance, and brings the pipe down across Hizaki's hand so hard the master key flies loose. Hizaki falls into the abyss below. The last thing he hears from Rakutoo is a quiet announcement that the game is over. The train is operational. Sakura fixes sabotaged wiring in under 3 minutes. Sana's father takes the controls. Survivors pour onto the cars from every access point, while Rakutoo, Nishi, and Ice hold the platform against the worms. The train moves. The giant worm pursues it into the tunnel, crashing through the rear car, and Rakutoo jams the pipe down its throat to buy time, while the others uncouple the damaged section. When the coupling finally releases, he has to run along the tunnel wall to make the leap, pushing off the concrete with the pipe, reaching with one hand, Nishi pulling from the doorway. The worm's final roar fades behind them as the train accelerates toward the light. No one speaks for a full minute after they emerge from the tunnel. Then Sakura starts crying with relief. Katon laughs and cannot stop. Even Ginkgo, sitting in the corner with her pendant clutched in both hands, lets the edge of a smile show before she catches herself. Rakutoo sits against the wall, covered in dust and blood, and thinks that surviving has started to feel like something worth doing. Amishima City does not look like salvation. The train deposits them at a warped section of track where the rails have been torn up and bent backward by something with enormous strength. Beyond it, the city skyline is intact but wrong. Buildings still standing, streets still laid out in their original grid, but the air above it all thick with circling shapes. Wyverns nest on every high structure. The central tower at the heart of the district glows with a faint, unnatural light that has nothing to do with electricity. The 8-minute walk Rakutoo calculated takes 20, because every route requires reading the patrol patterns of creatures that are not wandering randomly. They are stationed. They are guarding. Someone is giving them instructions. Before the group can reach any shelter, the alley around them fills with hooded figures moving in silence. They close in from 3 directions at once. The blonde kid freezes. Nishi reaches for his bow. Then a man in a red jacket drops from a fire escape directly onto Rakutoo and sends him sliding across the wet pavement with a single strike that carries enough force to crack the ground where he lands. The man is fast in a way that ignores conventional mechanics. Not technique, just raw, overwhelming power applied without hesitation or waste. He stands over Rakutoo with flat eyes and says only the strongest have any business surviving. He looks like he believes it completely. A voice from the rooftop above cuts the confrontation short. Akane lands between them, crossbow leveled, and orders the man in red to stand down. He pretends not to hear her. She makes it clear she is not asking. A long moment passes where the city holds its breath. Then the man in red picks something invisible off his sleeve, says none of them are worth the energy today, and disappears across the rooftops. Akane watches him go and lets out a slow breath. Then she turns to the group with an expression that is not warm, but is at least honest, and tells them to follow her if they want to understand what Amishima has become. Her name is Akane. The settlement she leads operates out of a half-finished shopping structure in the city's outer ring, Sector 1, in the language the survivors have developed to map their new geography. The people here look exhausted but functional. They share resources. They rotate watch duties. They take the wounded in without demanding productivity in return. But Sector 2 belongs to the predators, the man in red, whose name is Anazawa, and his crew of scavengers who operate on a single principle. Take what you can carry and leave everything else. They are not organized enough to be truly dangerous, but they are unpredictable, which in some ways is worse. And above both sectors, from the glowing central tower, the ruling class controls every drop of clean water and every stockpile of food remaining in Amishima. They enforce this control with monsters, organized patrols of demons and harpies that sweep through the outer sectors on a schedule, collecting people and resources with mechanical efficiency. The people they take do not come back. Nishi asks who is commanding the creatures. Akane tells him the name of the man who occupies the central tower, Kurigane Rakutoo. The silence that follows is complete. Ginko grips her pendant. Katon watches Rakutoo's face. He does not change expression, but something behind his eyes closes off, not from grief, but from the specific gravity of understanding that the thing he has been moving toward was always going to end here, with a name he already knew. Rakutoo is not just using the monsters. He built the system that summoned them. FN Corporation's mythic summoning technology, originally a theoretical framework for bridging digital constructs with physical reality, was his project from the beginning. He found Yukina's game because it gave him the creature designs he needed. He built the synchronization event that happened on the first day. Every phone that became a portal, every student who died in a school hallway, every city that burned. It runs back to one decision made by one person who decided the old world needed to be replaced. Akane explains that the only person who knows the full architecture of the system, who was inside FN Corporation when it was designed and might understand how to dismantle it, is a man named Shiosaki Genya. He was the settlement's previous leader. 3 weeks ago, a resource sweep took him. He is being held somewhere in the central tower. Ginko says her mother mentioned Shiosaki constantly. He was the conscience of what FN Corporation built, the one who raised objections that were overruled. If anyone can use what Yukina left on that SD card, it is him. Sakura hacks Shiosaki's old encrypted files within an hour and finds structural blueprints of the central facility, guard rotation patterns, and something else, a documented critical flaw in the summoning system itself. A weakness built into the architecture that cannot be patched without dismantling the entire network. The plan requires 2 things: get inside the central sector and reach Shiosaki. Neither is possible alone. The group needs numbers they do not have, and the only people with enough strength and enough nothing-to-lose energy to move against the central sector are the predators. Rakutoo goes to find Anazawa. He locates him in an abandoned factory at the edge of Sector 2, surrounded by people who look at everything like it might be worth taking. Anazawa listens to the full proposal without interruption, then stands up, tells Rakutoo his plan has approximately 12 ways to fail, and asks what makes him think any of it matters. Rakutoo asks what Anazawa's alternative is. The city's food stores are finite. The central sector takes more than it returns. Without changing the equation, everyone in the outer sectors has a countdown rather than a future. Anazawa already knows this. He just hates admitting that someone else said it first. He agrees to the alliance, though he makes very clear that his people fight for their own survival and not for any abstract principle. Rakutoo says that is fine. Principles do not clear corridors. The planning session that follows through the night is the kind of focused, exhausting work that leaves everyone quieter but sharper. Akane maps the patrol routes. Sakura identifies the technical access points. Ice and Taka run a material inventory across both sectors. Ginkgo sits apart from the group for part of it, holding the pendant, and when Rakutoo sits down beside her without saying anything, she eventually speaks. She says she spent a long time believing the only way to survive was to need no one. Her mother kept telling her that was wrong. It took the end of the world and a boy who blew out his own eardrums to save a stranger before she started believing it. Rakutoo says nothing. She does not require a response. Nishi spends part of the night staring at the map with a specific and personal intensity. When Rakutoo asks, he admits that Tuka, his younger sister, attends a school in the outer district of Amishima. He has been trying not to think about it since they arrived. Rakutoo tells him that if she is even half as stubborn as he is, she found a way through. Nishi almost smiles at that. The next morning, during a routine sweep by the Central Sector's monster patrol, Nishi spots a girl being carried off by an ogre in the chaos of the outer street. He recognizes her from 50 meters away and stops breathing for a full second. He goes after her without completing the thought, running straight into the formation with his bow unslung and his coordination temporarily replaced by something older and louder than strategy. Rakutoo shouts his name. He does not hear it. Taka's brass knuckles drop a minotaur that cuts off Nishi's path. Ice takes the hit meant for him from the side. Rakutoo covers the retreat while Nishi reaches his sister and pulls her clear of the patrol. She is shaken but alive. She looks at her brother with an expression that suggests she has questions about his condition that will take several days to fully ask. Nishi holds on for a moment longer than he means to. Then he straightens, wipes his face, and tells her she is coming with them. That evening, as the group finalizes the last details of the infiltration plan, Rakutoo stands at the edge of the Sector 1 platform and looks toward the central tower's glow on the horizon. The same boy who stood at the edge of a school roof with nothing worth holding on to now stands at the edge of something entirely different. Not an ending, but a beginning that is going to cost everything to reach. He grips the silver-coated pipe. Whatever Kudo built, he is going to walk into the center of it. And this time, he is not going alone. If Rakutoo's story hit different, drop a comment below. Like and subscribe so you never miss the next one. We will see you in the next video.